Good morning. We had a pretty good week for most of the commodities. Corn up 10 cents for the week ending November 29th. Soybeans up 13. The only black spot here is Chicago Board of Trade wheat down a penny. Minneapolis, though, up 3 cents. Actually, in comparison, the grain movements were almost nothing compared to these outside markets. Cattle, fat cattle in February up $3.07. Feeders up $9.75 in the Jan contract. And actually, well, the livestock made some pretty significant moves. I think hogs were up $3 too. Gold was much stronger, up $138, and the star commodity this week was silver, up 6.393. That's almost 13% on the week. So some pretty big gains in the outside markets. That maybe that helped propel these grains higher as well. Let's take a look at the charts. You can see the three, we only had 4 days trade today on this Thanksgiving week. So the corn obviously had some gains, but we haven't gone back to those recent highs. We're going to have to test those and break through those to keep this uptrend going. We have higher lows and higher highs going at this point. Usually the holiday week is a pretty quiet week, and we quietly went higher. Soybeans also gained in that 4 day span, but this is almost not a good formation. Many people have pointed out the potential left shoulder, head, and the right shoulder. It's possible if we fail here, that could be true. But the only negative, to that, or you're detracting away from that, is there's no such formation in the other commodities. Wheat had a little bit of weakness here in Chicago, basically unchanged for the week. But most of the commodities, the other commodities, wheat and corn, do not have that same type of formation. This is the Minneapolis wheat, really been the dog of the market, but I wonder if maybe that won't be the best purchase at this point. If we remain in an uptrend. Here's the feeder cattle, obviously a lot of volatility, but running up against that resistance line. Actually, this is a place where you could sell it, but you'd almost need a stop above this gap. Many people think we can go back and fill that gap. I'm not sure that we can. Let me show the full chart. We obviously have gone up a lot, and so a pretty fast recent break as well. And here's the live cattle, a nice recovery as well this week, and up against that trend line. Whether we can actually break it and come back up and test this gap, I don't know. This certainly looks like the cattle market has topped. In contrast, gold has not fallen off the table like the cattle have. In fact, gold is rallying back, and the main reason is the silver has rallied to new recent all-time highs. And obviously, if the silver is that strong, the question is, well, then what is happening in these outside markets? I recently saw a presentation on the US dollar and the reckless and gold, and the reckless spending that the United States has is basically devaluing everything. They're essentially trying to inflate everything. The US dollar had some weakness this week too. And maybe that has something to do with the strength in the commodities. But is it possible that the dollar and all of the European currencies all go down at the same time, so the measure of the dollar doesn't decline, but the European and US value relative to the rest of the world, maybe even China and Russia, declines significantly? And that could certainly be happening. And that may be why people, since there's a flight away from the dollar in the world, maybe that's the reason that people are flocking to gold and silver. It's a very interesting hypothesis, but certainly all the commodities were higher this week based on that. But the rally in the precious metals and the rally in livestock paled the small gains we had in the grains. But at least it's on the positive side in the grains. Hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving, and have a great weekend and good marketing.